Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 2011280L. Call for additional details.
Jones on first down. Wide open. It's Barkley. And Saquon Barkley will take it into the end zone.
Your best ability is availability. Saquon Barkley, he's great when he's on the field, but the problem is since 2018, he hasn't been healthy for this team.
Look at this. They lob it to him. He taps it in off the glass. How about that?
Porter Moser, I think right now is the best coach in college basketball, hands down.
Fins 2 for 3. He's done his part.
Pitch is drilled to deep right field toward the pole, and it is gone.
They don't mind not being what they were in the 90s as the best organization in baseball, because the Yankees aren't even close to the best organization in baseball.
You're trying to be the Rays, and the Rays do this for a reason. Like, you're the Yankees.
Welcome to Sports Talk welcome to Sports Talks with Art and Jay. I'm your host today, Justin D'Onofrio. Steve is away this week, and Joseph McGuire, the president of CMG, is nice enough to join me today. Joe, thank you for coming on with me today. Great to have you on. Haven't talked to you, haven't done a show with you in a while, so excited. Thanks for coming on with me today.
Dude, it's my pleasure to be here. It's Sports Talk with Jay and Jay today.
Yeah, yes.
And Riss was at the game last night. I think I saw on
was.
Instagram, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So
he must have been excited. I know he loves the Mets.
Yeah. Mets and Astros. He's really,
yeah,
the Astros too.
He does love his Astros. He must be down for the Rays too. He's got to be loving that. I heard his comment there about how the Yankees aren't the best organization of baseball. And look, I'll tell you the team I'm most afraid of right now, Baltimore Orioles.
I'm right there with you.
I think that's a team that's going to make a move in the next week or so. And I think, look, they've got the assets, they've got the farm system to make something happen. They need to get a big arm in there ASAP. And I think they could do a lot. I'd like to see it. Look, the last year plus now, it's one of the best teams in baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, they have. I think since Adley Rutsch has come up, this was a week ago I saw it, I think they have the 4th best record in all baseball since he came up, and it makes sense. Yeah, the next 6 years of that O's team, that's his special group, and that's such a great ball city. So I love that Baltimore's finally back, because that's such a great city. It's such a great stadium to watch a game too. Yeah,
I'm glad. Well, look, this is a team that went through some tough times, developed young talent, got those high draft picks. And they've converted those guys into Major League Baseball players. And again, it's one of those places where the Yankees have generally failed. This team reminds me of, and for people who live in Connecticut, who were around the New Britain baseball team, the Minnesota Twins. That entire team. From Torrey Hunter, Jock Jones, Doug Mankiewicz, David Ortiz, Christian Guzman, all those guys, Morneau, they all came through that minor league system. They were developed 6 years later, your first baseman gets replaced. And, they did a really nice job of constantly bringing through the pipeline Michael Kadire, guys like that. And they were able to sustain themselves, develop some pitching. You sign a veteran or two to fill out the rotation. You got a competitive baseball team. It's not hard to do. It's really not hard to do. And again, you look at Tampa Bay Rays. Again, a team that generally you lose somebody at first base. Well, this guy could play first. And they plug a guy in, and it seems to work. And the Red Sox are another team where I know the fans are upset that they've traded a lot of their bigger name players over the last few years or let them walk, but got a pretty solid squad. Got a lot of great young ball players on that team. The Red Sox have constantly been doing that since the early 2000s. Everybody they bring up, a Dustin Pedroia, guy turned into a superstar at the same time as, Veritek and go look at that team. And it's like, they know what to do and they know how to plug in spots, and I hate to say this, but baseball's a business. You know this. The economics of the game is you got just so much money. And it's worse in football when you're talking about a hard salary cap. At least in baseball, it's like you could spend whatever you want. And artificially, teams are like, we're going to stay under the threshold. The Mets were like, nah, no threshold this. And look how that's turned out. It's turned out to be another Mets utter disaster.
Yeah, the poor Mets, yeah. Yeah, and I'll go one step further. We could kind of start talking about the Yankees here. Even, and you brought up all those points about teams kind of building through the farm system and all that and bringing up But the Yankees haven't really done that much. But outside of Judge, and I know you could say, well, they're always in the playoffs, so we draft in the 20s and 30s. But look at the Dodgers. Every year they got guys. Gavin Lux, Walker Buehler a couple years ago, Will Smith. They got another catcher that's close, I guess, too. So, that doesn't matter. These organizations, and you look at the Padres too. They went out and spent. They went out, got Juan Soto last year. They gave up all those prospects. They used to have one of the deepest farm systems in the sport, and look at them. It hasn't worked out for them either. So, I think the way that baseball is going, again, the Yankees are never going to go to Baltimore direction, but you got to really develop through the farm system.
Listen, there's a reason the Yankees' heyday involved bringing up the core four. With people love talking about that. And it's like, the Yanks weren't exactly churning out a lot of other talent other than those four guys, over that entire 20-year stretch. You had flash in the pan. Shane Spencer showed up for 5 minutes, but most of the guys that they brought up from the minor leagues otherwise, pretty bad. And you could make the argument, the Phillip Hughes, Joba Chamberlain era. It's the same thing. You're not really developing great pitching talent. That's the key right there. It's nice to get some good young ball players in there. If you're drafting right, you have the core of a team. Again, you mentioned the Dodgers. Again, drafting generally after the Yankees do, and yet they're constantly plugging guys in from their farm system who become the next big star in LA. Why aren't the Yankees able to do that?
Yeah, that's a big question. You talk about pitching like Sevy, we've seen Sevy moments where he could look like an ace, but there's a couple starts already this year. It's like, man, you can't rely on him to be a starter. Look at Davy Garcia, Chance Adams, Justice Sheffield. There's probably others I'm missing that, again, they all failed. They all flopped at the major league level. So, the Yankees development-wise, it's been a major problem. Yeah, some of these other teams have been able to turn out stars. And I know the Mets are starting to try to do that, but the Yankees are just, again, it's a big part of why I think they've been struggling. Because, you go on.
But then also, Justin, look at guys like Sonny Gray, Joey Gallo, Aaron Hicks, veteran players who they didn't develop, who were miserable there, who left and they're going on to do better things. So I think there's something wrong in the clubhouse. Okay. I think this is a much bigger problem I've heard some New York reporters refer to this team as selfish, that these guys are a lot more into the numbers that they're putting up or not putting up, and that it's less concerned about the team and more concerned about I don't know if I buy that necessarily, but I've been seeing that a little bit more. That said, Justin, you got a team of an older team, a lot of veterans, and on paper should be able to get the job done. The problem is, and I mentioned this to you just before we went live, Rizzo and LeMahieu. LeMahieu's got a foot issue that has caused his swing to be a disaster. Rizzo with the lack of home run production ever since the neck injury. You play through the injury and you struggle. There's no forgiving that. There's no, well, he's out there grinding every day. I don't understand that. Your Judge, you're sitting on the sidelines. Nobody's upset that Aaron Judge isn't playing right now. If it was Giancarlo Stanton again, when it's Josh Donaldson, everybody goes nuts. People are super upset. So this was a poorly constructed roster. I didn't think much of it. It flamed out hardcore in the second half of last year. They made a huge mistake in not re-signing Judge before last season. They should have ponied up a little bit more. You could have saved probably $100 million had you done that. And instead, in typical Brian Cashman fashion, much like he did in Ruin Dellin Betances, he wants to go into an arbitration hearing and talk about how undeserving you are of a contract. Come on, dude. It's like, how many times are you going to do the same thing and fail at it? He should be fired.
He should.
And I'll tell you right now, I think, assuming that the Yankees miss the postseason, and I kind of almost hope it happens, I think Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone are gone.
Really, I think Boone is, but I'm worried about Cashman because he just signed that contract for 4 years this last offseason.
Who cares? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I think he should
I'd
too.
pay that. I'd pay that out, and I would move on. Or you know what? Even worse, maybe you promote him.
Yeah.
To a different, higher job where he's not in the way.
Yeah, I would like that because I think that would probably be more likely because he's a part. He's like that other Steinbrenner brother. He's been there.
Absolutely.
Since,
but the problem is this roster is 100% on him.
Oh, absolutely.
And I could have told you again. I mean, Trevor Keys didn't speak to me for days when I told him this Yankee team wasn't going anywhere. It's not good. It's an old roster with unmovable contracts around the diamond. So there's no knight in white armor coming to save the day here. There is nothing. I even said to Trevor, Justin, I said, look, if Rendon comes out, wins his first 6 starts, pitches to like a $1.50 ERA, maybe this team gets fired up. Now you got 2 aces and all things. No, and he's been awful. And as you said, Severino, a disaster. Domingo Germán, since the perfect game and prior to the perfect games, basically been terrible. He is the Dominican AJ Burnett. He can be unhittable with the stuff he's got, but he's a mental case. He can't get out of his own way. Nestor Cortez is throwing. He should be back in a couple weeks, but let's be honest, it was terrible this year. Yeah, and outside of last season, is there any reason to think that Nestor Cortez is going to come back and be the guy from last year and not the guy from every other time he's ever pitched anywhere?
Yeah. I'm like, he's been what? The Yankees cut him once, the O's cut him, Mariners cut. Like, he's been cut from 3-4 other organizations.
There was a reason for that, right?
Yeah.
Found some success last season, and he went right back to what he does. And it's like, oh, Nestor's coming back. So, if you're the Red Sox, guess who's coming back in a few days? Chris Sale. Guess who's going to be back a couple weeks after that? Corey Kluber. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a different caliber of reinforcements coming. The Yankees don't have that. Thank God for Garrett Cole, or I don't know. This is probably a team with a losing record if Garrett Cole's not in the spot that he's in.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's been he finally looks like the guy we saw like Houston, where he would just, I'm going out there, I'm the man. I kind of feel like the last few years he's kind of a little bit fragile. I feel it, with the pine tar stuff and the way he pitched in the wild card game with Boston. Yeah, like he's been good. Clark Schmidt too lately has been very good, but like Boone doesn't want to go 6-man rotation, and I think Clark's probably the odd man out because he's already pretty much at his innings limit. Which, again, I know that's the case, but like you're fighting for a playoff spot here. Like you
again,
need
utter mismanagement, and it's interesting, and I'm just gonna throw this out there, but different rules as applies to Clark Schmidt. Jabba had his own rules. Phillip Hughes, Chance Adams, they were definitely coddled in a different way. And then you look at some of the darker skinned guys, and they don't get the same opportunities. They've messed with Davy Garcia, something fierce, and Louis Gill, Dylan Betances. Right? Another guy from a few years ago. There's something about the darker skinned guys in the Yankees' lack of, I don't know what it is. I'm not saying it's like some racist thing, but I have to wonder why those guys get one set of rules and everyone else is pitching by a different set of rules. They should have planned this Clark Schmidt thing better. Mm-hmm. Like you knew you were going to run out of innings on this guy. You didn't think this out at all. Again, this is malpractice on the part of Brian Cashman.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're Hal Steinbrenner and you're watching Aaron Hicks right now, and you're paying his salary, I would be pissed at Brian Cashman right now if I was Hal Steinbrenner. Like what are we doing wrong that these guys leave here and everything is fine? Here they can't do it. They did it before, not here. They're doing it somewhere else now. Something's going on in that joint, and it's not Yankee baseball. It's not consistently winning. It doesn't look good when they win. They look terrible again last night.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing, Justin, right? I'll say this. Look, the Yankees, of course, go out and get Shohei Ohtani if you can do it. And I'll give you Jason Dominguez. Jason Dominguez is not going to be better than Shohei Ohtani at any point in his career. If he even comes close to that, we'd be thrilled. I'll just take the real deal now. Ohtani's an outfielder, which the Yankees desperately need a third outfielder. You need a pitcher. He does both of those things extremely well, and to me, that would be worth giving up a lot of stuff.
It would. If if he's 100, because and I don't know if this is still the case, but I know, a couple years ago when he signed with the Angels, he didn't want to play in the East Coast. I don't know if that's still the case.
Listen, that happens a lot with the guys from Japan because, not for nothing, but even flying from California to Japan, that's a long flight.
Yeah.
And then you tack on 3 more hours to go cross country, but with the time zones, it's 6 hours. You know what I mean? You're like on the other side of the planet from where you live in the off season, where your family and friends are. So these guys do tend to want to be on the West Coast. That said, you spend a couple years in Major League Baseball, and it's like, I want to do this on the biggest stage in the world, which to me also means the Mets are in play this offseason with Shohei Ohtani, clearly, right? I mean, they like to spend dough. So I'm not, I've heard a lot of people say the Dodgers are probably the front runner for him or whatever have you. You probably want to live out that way. I don't know, man. It's like I'm going where the green's at, where the opportunity. There's a lot of factors, and geography is certainly one of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taxes are one of them. What state am I going to be living in? What's the tax situation there? And is there a better state I could live in right near there? You know what I mean? So you've got options. You've got a lot of things you got to think about. It's not just location. I mean, again, because he's Japanese, I do think there would be a preference to live on that side of the continent. But I think if the green is on the other side, you go there. So I don't think that's going to be a thing. And again, I think here's two other factors on this, Justin, as far as Ohtani to the Yankees. And you I don't know if we said this before the show or during the show yet, but so many of these Yankee prospects who have been traded have also failed.
Yeah.
None of these guys, Rutherford, McKinney's back is like a part-time guy. He was supposed to be a big stud. Jack Cave. I mean, there's so many of these guys all around baseball. Andrew Brackens and Rutherford, and there's a million of them. And no one's really doing much. Even Jordan Montgomery, everybody was... Jordan Montgomery is back to what he was, and it is nothing special. And so... can the Yankees say, hey, look, we'll give you Pereira, we'll give you Dominguez, we'll give you Wells? Are teams like, I don't know. Your prospects don't ever pan out. I don't know if I want them. Or are teams like, oh my God, I would love to get my hands on the prospects you're going to ruin. These are guys that will develop into major league talent. And then in 6 years from now, you'll sign them as a free agent for $500 million.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think like somebody like Dominguez, where it's like his pro comparisons like Mike Trout. Like I think a team would be like licking their chops, getting the opportunity for the Yankees to give him up. I don't know, the guy that they got for Joey Gallo last year, Clayton Beater, he's been awesome down the stretch. Like that's a guy too that I think a lot of teams would be very interested in. I know he's had some arm problems in the past, but so far he's been healthy. Like Wells, like, and I heard a scout too talking about Wells. This was last week. He's like, his bat's ready for the major league level. He's not ready to probably catch a major league staff, but look at the Mets. They threw up Francisco Alvarez out there last year, and he's been much better defensively. I'm like, at this point, you let him kind of, get some, you let him get some experience out there and you kind of see what you got with him.
Justin, I want your thoughts on this. This is my last Yankee thought. And I agree with what you just said there, like 1,000,000%. Esteban Florio, who's no longer on the 40-man roster, so this is very hypothetical, but when they got rid of Aaron Hicks, my thought was, here we go. Let's bring this kid up. Let him play every day for a month and a half. See what you got. Yeah. Supposed to be a 5-tool guy. Again, you look around baseball, they have a guy like that, they bring him up. Clayton Beater, he's got the ability at the major league level, or Wells has a bat. Put him in the major leagues then. You'd rather run Jack Bowers out there and Franchi Cordero, and it's like, my God, you've got a guy you've been developing for years. At the very least, this kid comes up, rips 350 for a month, you got an asset.
Yeah. No, I agree with you because Florida last I checked at 23 home runs, I believe, over 50 RBIs. And because I agree because he hasn't gotten a shot. It's like, what do you expect a guy like Florida to do when he's only getting at bats once or twice a week? Like you can't expect him to come in and go 4 for 4 every night. Yeah. That's
Justin. He comes up. He mostly sits on the bench. He gets like 5 at bats. He goes like 1 for 5 or 0 for 5. And people are like, he doesn't produce. And it's like, doesn't produce. He didn't play.
No.
He didn't play at all. You got to put a guy in the lineup and just, again, look around baseball. Everybody does it. When the Nationals brought up Juan Soto at 19 years old, did they know what he was going to be? There was no way to know if this 19-year-old kid was really ready for the bigs until he got there and he proved he was. And so you can keep guys down to the farm. Like, you've got to get his strikeout rate down, his walk rate up, you can go. Just put the goddamn guy in the game and get him some coaching in real time, but you got to play him. If they're not playing, you're wasting them. Clint Frazier can't get by without mentioning how they ruined Clint Frazier and his career. Amazing.
Yeah. It is. They just, for whatever reason, it's just they're gun shy with it. I don't know why. They rather bring in other guys that have been journeymen and hey, we're gonna plug you in. It's another thing. I just don't get it. Like that's what they did with left field this year. They went in there without a left fielder this year. And like, we'll just plug and play whoever's out there. And hey, if they figured we'd have enough at bats where it's not going to be a negative for us.
Justin, I can only assume that Isaiah Groves here is trolling. Yankees bought 28 championship money. There ain't showing the real Yankee organization. Yankees have never bought a championship. That's a ridiculously silly thing to say. It never happened. The Yankees didn't have the highest payroll until you got into the early 2000s. It's such a Mets fan thing to say. It's sad.
Yeah. Like again, I'm like, what? You couldn't sign any free agent, like free agency wasn't a thing of the 70s, like they got Babe on the trade. They they drafted Wall in the older days, Yeah. And then 09, they had a nice core and, they added in with Teixeira and CC and AJ Burnett. They added those three. And the core four were a big part of that dynasty in the late 90s, early 2000s. So that again, back then they had a good job developing their guys and they kind of brought in the right mixture. And
the Kansas City Royals had the highest payroll during the 80s. Then it was the Toronto Blue Jays. And into the 90s and late 90s, it was the Baltimore Orioles who bought Will Clark and Albert Bell and Jimmy Key and anybody they can get their hands on. That was buying championships doesn't actually work.
No.
You can have a good team and you could be doing well and you can add a piece or two. But if you're look, do you remember what was it, like 3 or 4 years ago? The Padres went out and put together like a whole new starting 9. And by the All-Star break, they were trading guys all over the league. And it's like, you can't buy 9 starters and think that you're going to have a good baseball team. I don't care who those 9 guys are.
Mm-hmm.
If those guys are not good teammates to each other, if they don't like each other, if their talents don't complement each other, if everybody's a power guy, nobody's got speed, that's not a good baseball team. And so the idea that you're just going to buy your way to a championship, I think that's an impossibility.
Mm-hmm.
I think understanding economics is important because you do have to know where to spend and where not to spend. And when your team's payroll is like $350 million and like 120% over the whatever you want to call it, you probably shouldn't even talk up anything about anybody buying anything.
Yeah.
That's almost embarrassing because, again, I think the Mets are proof of what a colossal failure it is when you just think that you're going to throw a ton of money at something, right? I mean, how many times is Francisco Lindor going to flip off everybody in Queens before you guys realize he hates you and he doesn't like playing for the Mets? That's why he's been so bad for so long.
Yeah, he's not the same player. Yeah,
every couple of weeks, Justin. Every couple of weeks, this guy like tells New York off, and I mean, it's so weird. It's like your shortstop hates your guts. It's not going well.
No, it's not. Yeah, like the Mets. Yeah, the Mets. What Cohen said, we bought it 3 to 5 years and have a championship. Let's go out, get Max Scherzer at 41 and Justin Verlander. And Verlander's been good of late. Yeah, Lindor the trade. Look, they signed Canna, Starling Marte. Like they trade. They signed like what Pete Alonso, Nimmo, like McNeil maybe, and Alvarez. So I guess like
it's funny. The guys that they've brought up through their minor league system have been their best players.
Yeah.
And most of the guys that they've brought in from the outside have been subpar. And that's been, or I'm not even fair to say subpar. Listen, Francisco Lindor, before he got to the Mets, was an absolute superstar stud.
Yeah.
Still a good player, but that's not the same guy.
No.
Scherzer at 41 is not Scherzer at 38. Not Scherzer at 32, that's for sure. You let Jacob deGrom go because of the arm problems, and then you went out and got those 2 guys.
Yeah.
When you put together a roster based on names and what you think a guy's going to be able to do, you do have to look at, listen, Mike Trout is another one. It's been 6 seasons since he played 140 games in a season. Can we stop with this? I mean, I guess thank God for Shohei Ohtani, because Mike Trout's not the best player in baseball. He's the most skilled player in baseball, the best all-around talent. But to say he's the best is dishonest.
Yeah.
Because if it applies to guys like Aaron Judge, look, maybe if he wasn't hurt all the time, he'd be the best player in baseball. Well, Mike Trout's hurt all the time, so how is that he's the best?
No, it doesn't make any sense. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. And
look, I know we're gonna transition shortly to football. We're gonna talk about some quarterbacks and stuff like that. Again, it's you're trying to value what you think a guy's gonna produce for you in the next 4 years, and what that monetary value is like, right? I mean, the Broncos went in the last season feeling real good about it. We're a quarterback away. Well, maybe that's not the quarterback then. No. It's hard to put teams together, and it's hard when you sign guys through free agency that it's going to be the right fit, that you're going to get the production, that their health is all going to be there, because generally there's also a reason why a team doesn't keep somebody around.
Especially New York.
Right? I mean, again, New York let DeGrom leave and then went out and signed 2 guys who are old and have had a history of shoulder problems.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. I know right now, but the way Serge has been pitching, gave up 4 home runs on Saturday against Boston, and I'm like, you go back, even that you had with the Dodgers, that arm, last year at the end of the year, he really struggled down the stretch, and I think he even missed a start or 2, if I can remember correctly. And he did not pitch well in that wild card series against the Padres. So, yeah, you got 1 more year of him too. So good luck trading him.
Yeah,
good luck.
There you go. Again, if you put together a bad roster and you take on, I mean, what does he make? 41 million?
43, I believe. 43.8, I believe it is.
I mean, who would even, dude? Even if you were like, listen, I'll take half that contract, I'll pay it down. I'd be like, no, that's still way too much.
Yeah,
it's a problem.
Yeah, especially the way the things have ended the last couple of years for him. Like, I can't rely on him to be on October, to be max surge of October. Yeah, that max surge of 10 years ago is not walking through that door in October. I think it's a very slim chance. So, yeah, but the Mets has not worked out, and it's been a rough year. Again, hey, they can maybe at least win the Subway Series tonight. They will they'll meet again tonight, and the Yankees need a big start for Carlos Rondon. He has not been good. The control issues last week against the Angels was bad, and again, the reception he gave the fans out in LA with the kissing. Again, if things go bad tonight, I could see him getting booed off the mound with the reaction from last week. So
listen, his job is, no matter what he does tonight, is to walk off the pitcher's mound with his head held high and not be a little bitch. It's like, why they're booing you? Because you're terrible at your job. That's kind of how this goes. You knew that when you signed with the Yankees. So let's get it on, man. Look, he's a guy who knows how to pitch, coming off a long layoff. It's not like he's not going to have good starts. So there's no reason to think tonight can't be one. But again, I if you're a Yankee fan, I would temper expectations. If you're getting excited about that second wild card spot,
yeah. I'm like, you look at the road ahead coming up for the Yankees at Baltimore. That place will be rocking this week. That'll be a fun atmosphere. I know Steve's going to the game Friday night, I believe. So, fun. That'll be a tough one. Then you got the Rays coming in for 3, which absolutely own you the last couple years. And then maybe the only other team that owns you more than the Rays do, Houston Astros coming for 4. So
great.
You better win tonight.
Yeah, listen, they came out of the All-Star break with a pretty pie schedule, and they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah.
And so now they're in the situation, as you just said, where 2 teams that are much better than they are this year, and a team that has dominated them since 2017. You have to go out there and win 7 out of 8 if you want to do anything. Here, look, it's in front of them. The team's in front of them. They got a chance. But if you get swept or you go 1-2 in those series, pack it up, pack it in.
Yeah, I know. I'm going in a couple weeks when they play the Astros, so I'm, hoping that he can make it that competitive, and they're still somewhat in it. They haven't lost like 6 straight at this point, but I'm not going in there with optimism.
Bro, I went the other day. I saw Stanton hit 2 bombs. Donaldson hit a home run. The pitching was good. Everything about it was good. But you know what I noticed with the fans? When there was 2 strikes on the batters, nobody's cheering. Nobody's clapping. Nobody's excited. They're not into it, and it's hard to be because this team is
not very good,
not great. No. And the biggest personality on this team, Aaron Judge, is gone, and everybody else is just sort of there. No personality with this team.
No, there's not. Because even John Donaldson at a point, did in the past, but not really since he got the Yankees. That one incident, I think it was in Toronto last year. I think he got beaned and he got kind of there. I think there was a little kind of got in the face of the pitcher maybe a little bit, but other than that, no. This team is just, you look around the league at some of these Dela Cruz, Gunnar, Adley. There's some really young, exciting players, and some teams that are just so exciting to watch. And it's the Yankees are just the complete opposite of that. It's boring. It's boring to watch them. There's no energy, there's no excitement. It's just
Justin. I find myself nightly looking up Cincinnati Reds highlights because it's fun. They're energetic. They've got great athletes. They got that kid stole second, third, and home.
Yeah.
Come on. You know what I'm saying? It's and it's a young player. And it's exciting. It's exciting for people in Cincinnati. You got a young rookie superstar on the horizon. That's just what a team like Cincinnati needs. It gives you some personality too. It helps you connect with the fans and give them something to be excited about. And we don't have that anymore. Sad.
No, it's not. It's been a while. Judge isn't the athlete that those guys are. I know Dominguez are hoping is going to be that young star, but we talked about it. It's the risk. There's going to be a lot of pressure when he comes up. It's going to be the Mike Trout comparison. This man's the Martian. It ain't going to be easy for him. And he's going to be 21, 22. So it's going to be tough, and we'll see what happens. And then hopefully the Yankees could kind of figure out a way out of this.
By the way, Anthony Volpe. They let Anthony Volpe go out there and struggle for 2 months. He hit a $180 or $190 or whatever it was. My goodness, in the last 6 weeks, kid's hitting 350. He's starting to figure it out. He brings great energy with the speed and the stolen bases, and defense is for the most part been up to par. But again, and this is one of those things, Justin, where it's this kid's going to be the next Derek Jeter. I don't even know what that means. How do you define what the next Derek Jeter is? How about a Hall of Famer, who won 4 championships in his, what do you mean be the next Derek Jeter? The leadership, the throw. What do you, what unlivable standard have you created for Anthony Volpe? It's you got to be the next Derek Jeter, because Didi Gregorius, hit 27 home runs his first year on the Yankees, and people were like, he's no Jeter. It's no, he's got power.
Yeah.
What are you looking for at shortstop? Or if you're looking for another Derek Jeter, you'll probably never find one. If you're looking for a defensive shortstop or an offensive shortstop or an all-around shortstop, but to suggest that you're looking for the next Derek Jeter, again, it's that idea that when Aroldis Chapman became the closer, he's our new Mariano. No. Are you talking about? No. Nobody's the new Mariano Rivera. Stop that nonsense.
Yeah. Volpe, he's been fun to watch, and he's been hitting the ball much better. And I think that was kind of the final straw for Lawson as the hitting coach after Austin Wells, his former Somerset teammate. They watched some video from last year, and they figured out, hey, your swing or your stance is got to be a little bit more open, and that's kind of fixed it. And the one thing that that's the point I'm making. It's on Volpe is, again, the average is going up and all that. Why is it always like an uppercut swing? Why, like, I don't understand the new way of it. Like, why don't you just have him just hit doubles? Like,
just square up and hit the ball.
Speed,
it's just so stupid.
That's the thing, and and now we'll transition over to another team in the American League East, the rival, the Boston Red Sox, who have been very up and down, but again, took one last night from the Braves. They won 3 straight here. They're going back out west, starting Friday against San Fran, and they'll go out to Seattle on that trip as well here. So, for Boston right now, I've given Chaim Bloom some, I've been tough on him, but he's got a really good young core. And Jaden Duran, Tristan Cassis, I think he's ridden his points by like 70 points. His average has gone up in like the last 6 or 7 weeks. Brian Balo looks like he could be somebody in the front end of rotation. Like, look, they've developed some really young talent. Alex Cora does a phenomenal job. He gets the best out of those guys. And, Yoshida, too. That was a guy everybody was laughing about. That contract, He's been awesome.
Yeah,
he just
they knew.
that wall.
They knew what they were doing. They always do. And they always put look, I think the Red Sox, the only guy that's screaming to me that should be traded, well, maybe 2 guys, is James Paxton. He's pitching well. He's 6-2, like a 2.5 ERA. He's a free agent after this season. You got, he didn't pitch at all last year. You know what I'm saying? Like the deal hasn't been great for Boston. If you could move him and get something, and again, knowing Sale and Kluber are imminently coming back, you could move from a position of strength. Paxton's not going to be the difference maker down the stretch. And the other guy I think's got great value for this team would be Kelsey Jansen. And I think that again, there's not a lot of guys in that bullpen that are saving games, but I would move him. I think the Red Sox, without those 2 guys, I think it's as good a team. Again, as I mentioned, you do have 2 studs coming back to your rotation, which will also give you more flexibility in the bullpen anyway. So other than that, I know they moved Kiki Hernandez back to the Dodgers. Great. Everybody, he wasn't producing. Maybe he'll go back, and he loved being in LA. Maybe that'll all work out, but I don't think the Red Sox should blow it up. I mean, if anything, I think the Red Sox, just out of spite, should continue to push the Yankees. Because again, look, there's the 2 wild card spots, and there's 3 teams in the East that are better than you. That's already a problem. But I think, look, if you're a Red Sox fan, I know it's frustrating, and you've been at the bottom of the pack for most of the season, but I think you got to like what you see. You mentioned Bello, Cutter Crawford's another one.
Yeah, Cutter, yeah.
Bring the guys up, and they produce. And these guys, Bello's been outstanding, especially of late. I think Cutter Crawford, the numbers aren't quite there, but like the expectation wasn't high there. I think you're developing a back end guy for years to come, So again, there wasn't much expected from this team, and they're playing really good baseball. I don't know that I would, look, this is a team you could run back next year because they're only going to get better, and you're going to get healthy, and you're going to have a guy like Chris Sale back. You know what I mean? So I think the Red Sox are exactly where they need to be and exactly where they should be right now. And I think a lot of my Red Sox fan friends are upset. They don't like any of this. This is the reality of the economics of baseball, though. You got to retool. You got to stay under that threshold. Sometimes that means moving on from guys that you've developed. That's the worst, because the Red Sox, you look around the league and there's some superstars in baseball who the Red Sox couldn't afford. And that speaks to the economics of the game. I mean, it's as important as the wins and the losses.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I know they wanted they wanted Betts back and they wanted Bogarts back, but you look at that Bogarts contract, that 11 years, $280, they probably made the right move. He hasn't been producing great. Yeah, I know, for Red Sox fans, I know they want more and they expect more. Like, they don't like Bloom because he hasn't spent a ton. but he's starting to kind of build a young, really nice core. I know he wants to model like the Dodgers do, where they do spend, but like they have a very good farm system, and but like it's not like people are patient like they are out west. Boston, New York, Philly, like it's intense fan bases, and they expect winning.
You know what?
Now?
You pointed this out before. 2009, the Yankees went out and they had some good signings. They spent, I think, about $500 million in free agency that year. But it wasn't like they just threw, money at the wall. They had very specific targets from very specific needs. And you were able to fill those needs with good clubhouse guys who also were great baseball players. Mark Teixeira fit in perfectly with that team. They needed a Brian McCann, right? Like some of those moves just they made a lot of sense for the Yankees. And I'll tell you, just throwing money at the problem every year, if your roster sucks this year, you just throw more money at it. Now it's a more expensive, bad roster. The Red Sox, and you'll notice this, and I've made fun of Red Sox fans for this, but it's part of the madness. They win a World Series, and then they miss the playoffs, and then they finish in last place, and then they like retool. It's like a cycle that the Red Sox go through, where it's like, now we're going to get rid of a bunch of guys, but don't worry, we're going to win a World Series in like 2 years. You'll see. Mm-hmm. And it's been a pretty good formula since 2004, and unfortunately they're in the low end of the cycle right now. But I think this whole division is so good. Again, let's talk about Toronto for a minute, and let's look at Guerrero and Bichette. You look at all the young guys on that team that they've been able to plug in. They've been able to bring in better players by trading some of the young guys who they brought up who were producing, like Tescosa or Hernandez, moved him up. Again, you're constantly bringing guys up. They're producing. And now you have trade assets. And so now you want to go out there and get a left-handed pitcher. Now you can do that. Now you're able to spend on free agency where you really need it. And you're able to tool your roster by, again, moving young players for slightly more established veteran players who you definitely know are going to produce year in and year out. And it's been brilliant the way Toronto's built. And we've talked about the Rays and how great they do it, first class all around. And Baltimore developing all these young guys in the minor leagues and then slowly bringing them all up. And boy, you got to have a model, and I think that's the other problem, Justin. The Red Sox have a model. They know what they're doing. They spend smart. These other teams all have a strategy. There's only one team in the American League East that seemingly doesn't. And by the way, I mean, because I see our buddy Frank commenting a lot, and I know he likes the Marlins. The Marlins are the anti-Rays. Yeah. Low payroll, a lot of young players. Terrible job of developing most of those guys. Typically, the second somebody succeeds in Miami now, it's just they're just going to trade them for 3 minor league prospects. So it's a disaster. And the Mets are lucky to be in a division like that, where the Philadelphia Phillies take the Yankees approach of throw more money at it. Yeah. You know what we need? Another superstar in that outfield. And it's like, no, you don't. You need a guy that gets on base, for crying out loud. Yeah. What are you doing? The Braves have done it right.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, we've seen it. And look, not for nothing, but you can go back to the 90s. The Braves have done a really good job of developing and bringing. I mean, it's been impressive. Yeah. I'll tell you that. But there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. And the teams that are doing it right, I think when you factor in the analytics and stuff, so you're bringing in the right players, you have the analytics to back it up. Now you got something. Having a team that doesn't hit and run, that doesn't sacrifice, that doesn't steal bases, and using analytics to factor in so much of what you're doing when you don't have those sexy analytical players, doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's like we're going to hit a lot of home runs. Well, great. Then make that your whole identity, but stop pretending you've got something else, and don't get to the postseason and pretend you're going to do something else, because you're not. It's not the team that you are. These other teams are all sticking to their guns. Again, I know Red Sox fans not loving the way this season is going. I'm so impressed I'm more impressed by the Red Sox now than I have been probably since the early 2000s.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, I thought this was a year 75, 80 wins was the max, but they're 7 over 500 right now. And you could see this team getting better. Like, I know they've had their moments, but like, I think that's what happens to a team that's mediocre. Like, you know, you get really good weeks, but then you get really bad weeks. But again, we've talked about Balo, we've talked about Cassis, Duran. Like, you're seeing all those guys get better. Every game, you're seeing those guys get better. And I think that's,
and not for nothing, but Verdugo, who
yeah.
I thought after last year, it was like, boy, that was just not a good deal. And now he's having a better year. And I think I don't know if he's going to become what they thought he was going to become, but you know, if he's a serviceable member of this roster for another 4 or 5 years, it'll lessen the sting of
Mm-hmm.
So
Verdugo's going too, because I thought he was pretty close. I thought to being an all-star this year, you know, with his numbers he put up in the first half. So yeah, he's been good too. Like, you know, and again, you know, we talk Alex Cora, he's such a great manager. He gets the best out of you. Again, I don't know this for a fact, but I again, when I think things go bad, I think he's not afraid to get in those players' face, and I think there's probably some respect, and you know, he can get the best out of them. And again, the bullpen hasn't been as bad as we all thought it was going to be this year. You know, Jansen's been good. They just got Schreiber back yesterday. I know he struggled in his first inning back, but he was a nice pickup, you know, last year coming over. I forget from what, I think it may have been Detroit. But, you know, this Red Sox team's been in that offense. There's not many holes in that offense. And again, even if that pitching staff struggles at times, their offense had picked them up. And I don't think they're going to make a wild card, but I think they'll beat out. Think they'll be in that race till the last week or so.
By the way, did you see last night's 8-3-5 triple play?
Oh, I can see that.
That was, yeah. Oh boy, an 8-3-5. The last time the Red Sox turned one of those was in 1884.
Wow,
against the Providence Grays. Yeah. So, and they win the game though. I mean, it's still able to overcome, you know, some bad base running. And I'll tell you what, the Yankees
overcome that.
Just fundamentally speaking,
no,
not even close to what the Red Sox have been doing. And that, again, you look at all the other teams in their division. That's fundamental baseball, so important. Play good defense. Don't give the team extra outs. You're gonna pay for that every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You look at the division. None of those teams are going anywhere anytime soon. None of them. You know, with some of those young core that they got, it's just that division, that's going to be tough. That's probably the best division baseball for the next 4 or 5 years, you know, until we'll see when the O's have to pay all those guys that they'll pony up. But like that, you know, and the Red Sox have been good against them. But the only team they struggled with so far is the Rays. They're 6-0 against Toronto. They're 5-1 against the Yankees. I think the O's, they've had, you know, I think they're 3-3 against the O's. But the Red Sox take care of business in the division. They struggled elsewhere outside of the division, but they take, you know, they done a lot better than the Yankees have within the division.
Yeah, again, if you're a Red Sox fan, I think you should be like, wow, this has been quite a year. Unexpected and pleasant.
Yeah.
And who knows? Yeah. I mean, it's not like the Red Sox. I mean, they're within 3.5 of the wild card. Why not?
No, they still got the Astros coming up. They play both times in August. They got Toronto coming up. They got the Yankees coming up in August as well. They got Toronto's next week. So they got some teams in front of them that they knock off. They're right there. And again, you know, Bloom, you never know, because last year he sold pieces, but kind of tried to get some as well. Like, you know,
that was weird. It was we're selling off, but also we're going to try to make our team better.
He's kind of giving those same vibes this year. Kind of, sound like, you know, we don't know yet. You know, we're kind of undecided. So we'll see what they do in the next week or so. But going over to kind of some trade deadlining stuff, as it is 5 days away. We talked briefly about the big one. We already kind of talked to Ohtani a little bit, but Yankee purpose wise. So Joe, do you think the Angels do trade Shohei, or do you think they should hang on to him and
All right. So the question is, should they? And the answer is, of course they should. But if you're asking me, will they? I still think Artie Moreno would rather not. So I think at this point, I think there's a better than not chance that the Angels will keep him. That said, I think if somebody were to make them a beautiful offer, I think you can get it done. I think you'd have to blow them away. And again, if you're a team that's rich in prospects, throw them out there. Who cares? I mean, this gives you the inside track on Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. 2 extra months of negotiating with him.
That's what you want. You want to make them feel real comfortable. You want to show them what the organization is all about. You know what I mean? Maybe you go off and win a World Series with the guy this year. That could certainly help you get him back next year. So the Angels should. They're not a great franchise. Artie Moreno's not a good owner. He's trying to sell the team, and he's afraid of trading Ohtani and that hurting the sale of the team. And it's like, but you're going to get such a haul back that the next owner and his team is going to be thrilled to get all that. I threw this out there. I'm saying Dominguez, Pereira, Wells, Beater, Thorpe, Severino, Gleyber Torres, because they do want major league talent back for him, and it feels a hitting role and a pitching role for that team. I give you all that for Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah. If I know he's coming back, I probably pull the trigger.
Yeah. Listen, you will talk to his agent before you pull the plug on this trade, and you'll say, look, if we get this guy, I mean, is he definitely not going to want to stay in New York, or got to be honest with me? If he's open to, he'll live anywhere. Do it. Just do it. Okay. Yeah. And here's the thing. Look, I've heard Yankee fans like, he's not going to help. Well, okay. He's not going to help this year. Or maybe he will. Remains to be seen. This is a guy who, again, I realize it's a huge investment, but you're probably going to, you'd be looking to pony up in the offseason anyway. And I know people are, especially Brian Cashman with those, they want to hoard all those prospects, and it's like none of them ever pan out.
Yeah.
This guy's one of the greatest players we've ever seen, they say. How do you not make that move? I don't get it. And by the way, I always like to just take a cheap shot at the Padres, but I predicted the Padres were going to have a disastrous season this year.
That's a good call.
And I you know why I said that? It's not because their pitching's outstanding and their bullpen is very good, but they have no less than 6 guys who are playing out of position on a nightly basis in San Diego.
Yeah.
You can't have 4 shortstops and 6 right fielders and think that's a baseball team, because it's not. And that's kind of what they did. And I go back to, famously some years ago before Harper went to Philly, he wanted to play for the Yankees, said he would learn to play first base. And Brian Cashman said, I'm not going to pay a guy to play a position he doesn't know how to play. People were like, wow, it's first. How are moving a guy from right field to left field is very hard. And not every major league outfielder can play right and left field. Mm-hmm. That's why most guys are either a right fielder or a left fielder. And I know it seems stupid. And like, you can't, or, oh yeah, you can't slide that shortstop over to second. This guy's been fielding grounders going to his right his whole entire life. And now you're like, hey, everything you learned about going to the right, it's all going to go left now. Mm. Your natural instinct that you've harnessed over the last 15 years, just forget all that and go the other way. It is not as easy as the Ben Zobrists and the Isaiah Kiner Falefas of the world make it look. There are guys out there that have an ability. They're very good defensive players that could probably play anywhere. Most guys can't.
No.
Most guys can't. And when you play guys out of position, their bats tend to suffer. I think that's another part of the DJ LeMahieu problem alleviated by trading Gleyber Torres in this deal, because I want LeMahieu to be the Gold Glove winning second baseman he's been, and get Gleyber Torres. To be honest, if they could move him to the National League, that would probably be the best thing.
Yeah.
Him in a DH role, and there are teams that haven't fully transitioned. I think he could do well there. He could play second base sometimes, where you want to throw him at short or whatever. That's a guy probably destined for the outfield, because he's a terrible second baseman. And you saw how bad he was at shortstop the year before that. And people are like, he'll be better back at second. It's like, no, he was terrible at second before he was terrible at short, and he's still terrible at both. A guy without a position who's not like a David Ortiz, that's a problem. It's like you're 26 and you're a defensive liability, but you can hit. You're DH.
Yeah.
That's what you are.
And the Yankees already have too many DHs.
Too many DHs. That's the problem.
Yeah.
There's too many that Yankees already have. And that's why, again, I say you'll still find teams in the National League, Justin, who don't have that ninth bat in their lineup. They don't have a DH that's whoever off the bench. And it's like, that's not what a designated hitter is. A designated hitter is supposed to be a guy that can hit bombs and get on base and do some things. He would be good for some of those teams that really are lacking that other bat. So I do, again, trade Ohtani, yes. Will they do it? If they win a few games this week, they probably won't. And I got to tell you, it is beyond idiotic to not move this guy when, again, you could get back a package that could set your team up for a decade of success. And crazily enough, Justin, if you're so bold, you could go right back out and re-sign that guy, a la the Yankees in Aroldis Chapman, where they got Gleyber Torres in that deal, and then walked away the next year with both of those guys. And then a couple years later, they went and got the first baseman from the Cubs, too, and broke everybody's heart in Chicago. Justin, I was in Chicago last year, and I watched the Yankees. I didn't watch the Yankees. I watched the Cubs and the Dodgers play. But the thing that struck me was I saw about 35,000 number 44 jerseys.
Still.
And I thought to myself, yeah, still that's their favorite player. And it's like, it's the worst thing ever when your team trades like the most popular player in your franchise. It's a terrible thing. The Cubs knew it was time. It's time to reload. And they're going to move Cody Bellinger this week because they know when it's time to, I'm like, we're not going anywhere, and get something for this guy. That's what smart teams do. The Red Sox know when it's time to re-sign a guy, when it's time to move on from a guy, when it's time to give a guy a shot, bring a kid up. The Angels probably won't do it.
No. And I'm glad
and if they don't get a haul back, then they definitely shouldn't have done it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually taking the other side. I think from a business standpoint with Art Moreno, you can have, I think it's counted 27 home games left. So again, without Trout either, it's a business decision too and I heard this too a couple weeks ago. They cannot keep up with like their team store. They cannot keep up with the Ohtani jerseys. They're selling out pretty much every home game still. Like, I still think you can make a lot of money with guy on your team. Again, I think till last minute you try to say everything you can to get him to resign next season of just, hey, come back. Again, they have some young, I know they got a lot of young pitching prospects that they've kind of brought up, and I know they got some of the minors, and hopefully for their sake they could kind of produce and develop into decent guys, because that's what the Angels have been lacking. And Trout's been hurt a lot lately. The last couple of years, of course, they got some young talent. Like, I try to tell Ohtani, look, I will do whatever it takes for you to come out. If you want me to go get another superstar this offseason, I'll go get that another superstar. I will do whatever it takes to keep you around. Because I think from a business decision, and for Moreno too, to sell this team and keeping Ohtani with it, I know it might cost more for that next owner. But again, you could have Trout and Ohtani on that team next year. I just feel like, again, yeah, maybe it's a possibility he'll re-sign if you trade him. But I just keep him around. You're 3.5 out. I know Trout's been starting to do some running. You maybe get him back in the next couple of weeks. Again, they got tiebreak over the Yankees. I think they're only 3.5 back. I think the Angels, I think you give it a shot and see if you can make one more run and just try and entice them the next, use that extra 2 months that you got with them to negotiate with them. And
I'm giving you a major league ready pitcher. I'm giving you an everyday Major League Baseball player, and I'm giving you 7 of my top prospects.
We talked about it. I don't always, these prospects
Fair
are
enough,
so hit or miss.
But that's also why I'm giving you a Major League ready pitcher, a Major League ready hitter, guys are already playing and producing. I'm giving you 7 prospects. One of them's got to hit. Yeah. Maybe 2 of them hit. Again, it's the possibility the Angels are looking at is that this money machine just signs away when the season's over.
Yeah.
And you'll have had nothing to show for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That should be, I'll put it to you like this. Artie Moreno's thinking about dollars. The general manager there is thinking about this guy walking away and you get nothing. You lose this insane talent, 2-way player, and you get nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I that's the tough thing about it. It definitely is. Cause I know the GM's got to be thinking future wise, but I feel like a lot of these times, the MLB ready players, Glaber would be nice, but these are free. Like for the Angels, or Glaber's got 1 year left where he hits free agency, I believe. Sevy's going to be a free agent at the end of this season. So you could resign him, of course, but I sometimes with these franchises, it just doesn't work out when you trade. I'm like, look at the Tigers are still hurting for not getting the right prospects when they traded Verlander away. Some of these, it just so it seems like a lot of these times it just doesn't pan out for the teams dealing with big stars.
Look, in regards to Severino, he's coming off a 4-year, $40 million contract, right? Mm-hmm. Is he going to get more than $10 million a year based off what he's done in the last year or with this contract? No. So you're going to have the inside track on probably signing someone of that caliber for $8 or $9 million a year.
Mm-hmm. It's shown you he can be at the top of that rotation. Can he come back? We'll see, but he has shown you in the past that he could be that guy for you, the middle rotation. And again, that 18, he sort of 12 or 14-2 for the All-Star break, like a 2 ERA,
we know what he can do. Yeah. We know what he's got. Again, you gotta. Are the Angels looking at the scouting reports like, oh yeah, no, we could totally get the most out of this guy. And that's what you got to hope for. You got to hope that there's, you got to hope the other team finds your guy super appealing. I don't think it's going to happen. And I don't think the Yankees are going to end up getting Shohei Ohtani. No. I think somebody else definitely has. I think the Texas Rangers.
Yeah, it's a go. Yeah.
Seems to me like that would be the team, or the Dodgers, of course.
Dodgers. Yeah.
Although I've heard Moreno's not interested in helping the Dodgers out in LA anymore than just by having a crappy team across the way, So, yeah, that obviously factors in. There's quite a few obvious trades that are interdivision, and it's like, well, they're not going to happen, right? Nobody's looking to make their opponents, their main rivals, a better team. I'd like to see the Cardinals do some selling off. They got a lot of great pieces. What St. Louis ends up doing and how big their fire sale is could have a huge impact on baseball because they do. There's a lot of names there in St. Louis that I hear could be on the move. including Nolan Arenado.
And that would, that's a great kind of transition. Well, on kind of our baseball talk here of like, what, a team in the AL and NL, a trade or two away, who could kind of be contender to, I know in the National League it's tougher because the Braves kind of look like a runaway, but, like in the American League, do you have a team in the AL and NL that move or two away that could kind of, be World Series contender?
Yeah, look, I think Milwaukee is one of those teams. I think Milwaukee should seriously consider getting a bat and a glove and a bullpen piece. That's a team that strikes me as they should make a move. I'd love to see Baltimore. Baltimore should do something. Yeah. Got all that minor league depth. You got your fans, all excited. Go for it. So those are the two teams I want to see do something. But to me, I think the Rangers, that's a team that I think could make a big splash. And if it's Ohtani, forget about it. I think then that makes the Rangers even more so than the Braves. I think that maybe pushes them a little bit ahead in the Vegas odds.
Yeah, absolutely. I could totally see that happening. I actually had the same two as you. I had the O's, because pitching. Tyler Wells, I don't trust him. I know he's been good this year, but I don't trust him in a game one. I really don't. Again, I think if you're them, I think try to get a Marcus Stroman, a Blake Snell, even like a Giolito or somebody like that.
Someone that you won't be embarrassed to say is your number one guy when the other number one guy is somebody we all know very well. And that's what you're going to be facing in your first round matchup. So, I know you're 100% right there. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Yeah. And I think the White Sox are primed to move Lucas. Him, Cease, sounds like the Rays may be close with Lance Lynn, I heard. I know Lynn right now is still the projected starter tonight, Chicago. So he hasn't been scratched yet, but I was reading this morning. Sounds like Lynn could be close to moving. The White Sox, Dominoes, another embarrassing kind of year for the White Sox. A young core hasn't come together. And then, quickly the Brewers, I thought, I know we talked about the interdivision, but Cody Bellinger would fit beautifully as a center fielder there. Yeah. That Sal Frelick kid that just came up last weekend, he's had a terrific start, home run, 5 RBIs already. Randall Gritchett, Lane Thomas, they got the pitching. I know Woodruff's going to miss like a week or two, but they still got Barnes, Burns, their pitching staff. They get to October, they'll be dangerous, and that's why I think you add a couple of bats to that lineup. Yelich has been better since the month of June. Yep. That team could scare like a Braves and a Dodgers, in a 7-game series. It would be fun to be able to get behind a team like the Brewers in the postseason.
Yeah. I'm like against the Reds this week. That watching those two games the last couple of nights, that atmosphere has been unbelievable in Milwaukee. Like they're behind that team, and it seems like a really good baseball town. So that again, late this season, postseason, kind of stretch there. Yeah, seems like really good atmospheres out there in Milwaukee, which would be, fun to see.
Totally.
Coming up after the break here, we'll dive into a little football. We'll talk about Joe's Giants. They've made 2 moves with Barkley and Andrew Thomas, and then Justin Herbert of the not San Diego Chargers, the LA Chargers, sign a big extension there with Chargers. But we'll be right back after these 2 commercial messages.
We can expect another wet summer in Connecticut, and that means more mosquitoes than ever. If you don't have your home apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future home buyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.annie-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@annie-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. Annie Mac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA Annie Mac Home Mortgage. Go-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. Licensed lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island Licensed Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
There's no bigger investment than home ownership. And to make sure the house is up to your standards, you need a professional to look it over. Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections is a licensed home inspector and a member of the Connecticut Association of Home Inspectors. Brian was a contractor for over 15 years, so he knows how homes should be constructed and how mechanicals should work.
What makes me a good home inspector was the 20 years that I was a home improvement person, doing all the different repairs that I have done and what other people have done wrong that I had to go out and fix. So I have a pretty quick eye on seeing what's right and what's wrong. Before you move, call Shamrock Home Inspections.
Before you make the biggest investment of your life, call Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections at 860-268-2566 or visit shamrockhomeinspectionct.com.
And welcome back here to Sports Talk with R&J. And now we transition to NFL. A lot of training camps open this week. We're 8 days away from the Hall of Fame game. And Joe, I'll get your thoughts first on this as you are a Giant fan. Saquon Barkley ends his kind of holdout here, signs a 1-year deal. Could get franchise tag next year, but my big kind of thing is here. The Giants offered him a 2-year, $22 million deal, at one point, and that was fully guaranteed, and he kind of lost that. But what are your thoughts of Saquon Barkley kind of ending this now and, kind of your outlook here for the Giants?
If Saquon was looking for a 5-year, $70 million deal, I would have understood the Giants' reluctance. But he was only looking for a short-term deal. And apparently you were just a couple of $1 million off and just some guaranteed money off. Why you would put your best player through this is beyond me. Like this doesn't make any sense. I saw reports where he was asking for a ton of money. He said that wasn't true. I tend to believe him over the franchise. This is the same franchise that told me that they signed Odell Beckham not to trade him, and then days later traded him. So I don't believe anything that the New York Giants say. Okay. They're also being sued by Brian Flores for being racist. So I don't know. It's like hard to trust the Giants. You threw a lot of money at Daniel Jones. I was shocked at the figure that they settled on, but the market bears out that's what it is. I saw something recently where Daniel Jones asked for $47 million, which again I was told no, that's not true. And he asked for 40. I mean, that's still a lot of money. He wasn't like, pay me less. I don't understand. I mean, look, there are teams that don't value running backs. I get that. The Giants aren't one of them. The Raiders aren't one of them. The Cowboys aren't one of them. The Bengals aren't one of them. So I'm confused. Like the Giants are, I don't know what Giant fans have been thinking the last couple weeks. They're very pro the organization. Saquon's greedy. Saquon's this, Saquon's that. For most people don't know this, Justin, he doesn't spend his game checks.
Really?
Yeah, he's putting them away. He's only spending endorsement money. He bought his mother a house with endorsement money. He's not spending his game checks. He's building wealth for himself because he knows as an NFL running back, 10, 12 years tops, best case scenario. Best case scenario, 10, 12 years. That's all you're getting. And he knows this. They declined his 5th-year option, and then they put him through the ringer, franchise tag him. They've left themselves the ability to do it again. I mean, I was all for Saquon not showing up. I thought Saquon should have held out and possibly missed the entire season. Because Saquon now puts himself in the position of, if he rushes for 1,400 yards this year and he catches 70 passes, he's now a year older and a year more abused than he was when he could barely get a deal this year. There are a handful of running backs in the NFL who are special. Christian McCaffrey, always hurt, is one of those guys. Alvin Kamara, another one of those guys who's always banged up. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know, man. You're going to tell me some guy's worth $16 million who misses. Again, this is the Mike Trout, Aaron Judge argument with Saquon and McCaffrey. It's like, well, McCaffrey's always out too. Why is it only Saquon where your best availability is your whatever? So I don't like this. The fact that this team was nickel and diming their star player, the face of the franchise. Either move on from the guy, go out there, get Dalvin Cook, or pay the guy. Pay the guy. You caused problems. I mean, how many players came out on behalf of Saquon? Bunch of them. So there's already dissension in the ranks. This is not a good look for the Giants, especially when you had just signed Daniel Jones to all that money. Dexter Lawrence got paid. Andrew Thomas this morning, he gets paid. Now, I think it might even have been Steve that wrote this. I think I saw earlier talking about the value of those positions: defensive tackle, left tackle, quarterback. That's NFL 23. Running back is like some 1980s nonsense, right, Justin?
Yeah.
So that the Giants still run their offense through their running back. He's 30% of the entire offense, and it all runs through Saquon. So, again, we're not talking about Cordell Patterson. We're not talking about, I don't know, Austin Eckler. You know?
The Chargers are trying to move themselves.
Sure. Again, there's another guy that's unhappy. But look, there's all these great. I mean, Zeke's still around. Dalvin Cook's still available. Yeah. There's some guys to be had. So, again, if these guys are really such a dime a dozen, as I hear lately, how come more of these unsigned, undrafted guys aren't big superstars? Because like 4 of them have done well in the NFL in the last 5 years. I'm supposed to believe that running backs have no value. I know teams that can't run in the NFL struggle. So I don't know. I'm not buying this. I don't like this. I mean, again, if this was a team that throws the ball 50 times a game and that's the game plan going in, then you're like, oh, Barkley, you got to take what you get. But they're going to expect you to touch the ball 25 to 30 times a game, and the guy handing you the ball is making 4 times what you do. And the guy that's opening the hole for you is making 5 times what you're getting. I don't know. Like, you tell me, right? I mean, this kid's 10 touchdowns last season. $10 million this year. Really? $1 million a touchdown. They were paying Kadarius Toney for touchdowns. They wouldn't have owed him $1. I don't know. This is, to me, look, this is the Giants are a different kind of team because of how important this position is to what they do. I understand Thomas is important and Jones was important, but they treated this guy like trash.
Yeah.
And I don't get that at all. He's look, I hate Wayne Gallman. And he was the backup for most of the Barkley run here. And when Wayne Gallman is in a football game, you realize, John, that there's some guys that have something special. Wayne Gallman, nothing special.
No.
Saquon, special. Big difference. Big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and I understand your point about, Giants doing them dirty and all that. I just don't think the Giants wanted to reset the running back market. I don't think they wanted to do that. And, because again, it's somewhat unfair, these running backs, but it's such a passing league now. And you're seeing, and I talked about, we kind of talked about Barkley last week. I'm like, you're seeing now on 4th and 1, teams are going 5 wide, spreading things out, throwing the football. Like, it's unfortunate for these guys, but like, look, the fullback, that's gone extinct pretty much. The Niners are the NFL team using a fullback anymore. So I get your point of, the Giants did them dirty, but just nobody wants to pay the running backs. And I get, Barkley is such an important piece of that offense, but I just don't think the Giants wanted to reset that market. And
I get that. I mean, I want to pay my guys as little as humanly possible because that's good for morale. I mean, again, you're talking about these teams. The Giants and Barkley were just a couple $1 million off to coming to like a respectable long-term deal, and he wasn't looking to reset the market. He said that repeatedly. So again, you're talking. It's not like he wanted $20 million a year for 5 years, and you're like, no, you were in the ballpark, $22 million guaranteed over 2 years. It's like, well, that sucks for a guy who scored 10 touchdowns last season.
Yeah.
Nobody else in this team had more than like 3. Give me a break. Like he is the offense. And look, he's too good of a guy to actually sit out because his teammates were like, dude, do what you got to do. Other running backs in the league, like, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't love this. I think this was doing a guy dirty for no reason. And again, clubhouse chemistry is super important.
No, it is. And see, and I feel like too, like if Mara was still running the, like with the Eli, because I know Mara loves this guy, and I know Mara would have paid him every single dime that he could. But I feel like for the Giants organization, it's somewhat a good thing because now like Shane is in charge. Like he ain't taking orders from Mara now,
right?
I think that's a positive sign. Even coming out of this, is again, I think the Eli stuff set you guys back for a couple years that last extension. I think that's is a good thing. But with the Barkley, it just again it's unfortunate. It's just the way the sport is. And I don't think the running back's ever going to extinct, but the more and more kind of QB friendly this sport becomes, I just think the running back kind of continues to kind of creep kind of further less, as important, I feel like.
Oh, sure. But, and also look, the NFL's done everything they can to protect quarterbacks, to protect wide receivers, to protect tight ends. They've done nothing to
running backs.
Nothing in the way of protecting running backs. They could still be hit blindside. I mean, whatever. They still have their face masks pulled and it doesn't get called. If you sneeze near the quarterback, you're getting a flag.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, there's like 25 teams in the NFL where if you were like, they're not going to re-sign the running back, I'm like, yeah, they don't need to. This is not one of those teams. It just isn't. This guy's vitally important to the success of the Giants. I believe in Daniel Jones. I think Daniel Jones turned the corner. I think he's a better quarterback than most people, including Madden, will give him credit for. But without Saquon, that offense is not great. With Saquon, that offense is a little better than mediocre. Without him, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, this is like, they gave Eli the extension and then traded Beckham. And I thought,
like what's going on?
Why didn't we just move on from Eli then? It's like, hey, Eli, we're going to run you back, but we're going to take your best target and trade it.
Yeah. Just like, how's that? Yeah. How's that going to help?
Right. It's like you're making the team worse. Taking Saquon away from from Jones, that wasn't going to make it. You want to get your $40 million worth from Jones, you're going to need Saquon to be there and producing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You haven't given him any incentive to do that here.
No, you haven't. Barkley. Yeah, Barkley didn't want to. Sounds like he didn't want to sit out here. He was going to sign the deal. Again, I don't expect him to kind of be grumpy, and I don't expect him to be coming here and, again, inside, I bet, he's disappointed in all this, but I don't expect him to take it out on the Giants, his teammates, and anything like that, which is, a good thing that will definitely help the team around. But he's such a big part because, again, I know you guys are finally hoping your wide receivers are going to stay healthy, but again, you lose 3 wide receivers again, you're going to need them along the passing game too. That's.
Tell you what, though, week 14, my ankle's sore. I'm Saquon. I'm sitting.
Yeah.
I'm not risking my health going forward. I got nothing guaranteed beyond this year.
Yeah.
So you're putting us in a bad spot down the line.
Yeah. No, I could. Yeah. Again, it'd be tough to blame him because I understand he wanted the money. He wanted to guarantee money because it's such a short shelf life there right now in the NFL for these running backs. Fair or not, and it's disappointing. And now we move on now to the man who will be protecting Daniel Jones' blind side for the next 5 years, Andrew Thomas. And I'll let you because you are a Giant fan here, and I'll quickly kind of say, look, he had a really rough rookie year, but the last couple of years he's really he's been terrific. He's been one of the best left tackles in the sport. He's been back-to-back years second all pro. He's been unbelievable. He's been a great pick here for the Giants after started out kind of looking like, man, this kid may be a bust.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember thinking about that because I didn't want him.
No,
I think Tristan Wirfs was the guy I wanted. And obviously, look, that didn't work out any better. But, and it just speaks to how hard it is to get these things right time and time again. Thomas didn't look great. Much like his endmate, the right tackle now the Giants got, Neal. Who coming out of Bama was a little disappointing his rookie season. Later in the year, started to turn it around, and we're hoping that he'll be able to do what Andrew Thomas did. As you mentioned, the last couple of years, he's been one of the best in the game. And he's so important to the New York Giants. Their offensive line has not been great. They've got a rookie center who they're hoping could be a 10, 15-year guy. Neal on the right, Thomas here anchoring the left for a long time to come. You gave Jones all that money. You went out and got all the weapons for Jones. You skimped by and brought him Saquon back at a discount. But this guy's probably the most important guy in blue right now is Andrew Thomas. And I'm thrilled the big guy got paid. I'm glad that the Giants, so this is a very good contract for the Giants. It sets them up. Because as you mentioned, look, things had not been going well. Dave Gettleman put them. It shocks me when I see year after year, the Giants have no salary cap space. Who's on this team? They don't even have anybody good. It's not like they have some superstar eating up payroll. Yeah. It's just been a series of really bad contracts, and restructuring deals to try to move money around. And then again, right at some point, it all comes due, and then you're insanely strapped for cash. So I'm glad the Giants are making some moves here. And, again, this is one of those things, though. And in the last 2 days, Justin, right, the Giants have committed about $137.5 million to 2 players. And here's the thing. It doesn't make the Giants any better than it did yesterday. You spent a ton of money, and the team's not any better. It's those 2 guys. This is, like I said, when the Giants signed Aaron Judge, it was $360 million. Okay, now you're not worse than you were last year. So let's get started on the offseason. Getting these things done now, this is great for the Giants. Again, you've got a great young team, very talented football team. I do think the Giants will regress a tiny bit this year. I think 7 or 8 wins is probably more likely. I nailed it last year. I said that was a 10-win team. I went through on John about the G-Men, and I pointed out which 10 that the Giants could win. The Giants had a pretty good schedule last year. And I know the NFL and ESPN, people like that struggle with this, but just because the Green Bay Packers are the Green Bay Packers doesn't mean that they're going to be good automatically. Everyone seems to think the Packers are going to be great. Jordan Love's going to be just fine. Oh, okay. Have you not been watching the NFL ever?
Yeah.
It's a tough transition into the league, and so they're going to have problems. And if Aaron Rodgers couldn't make that offense go, Jordan Love might have some struggles with it during the season. You could expect that. But the Giants core, it's young, it's good, it's talented. I like these moves. I don't know how the Saquon thing works out long term, but I'm glad they committed to Daniel Jones. I think he earned his way to a couple more seasons as the starting quarterback. Hopefully he doesn't have too much of a regression this year. Hopefully he continues to improve. If he does, I think with the schedule, though, they're going to have a hard time. They're going to have a hard time getting to 500. I mean, their first 8 games, they could be 1-7.
Yeah.
And having to dig out of that kind of hole. And they're not an win 8 in a row kind of team. So I think that the Giants early on, you're going to, and that's why having Barkley out of the gate is especially important, Justin, because they need all hands on deck. Those first 8 games, that schedule is, boy, for winning a wild card, they did the Giants dirty with that schedule.
Oh yeah, they did.
Oh,
what?
God.
6 of your first 9 are on the road, something like that. Like, the NFL did not do you anything.
Yeah, it is brutal.
I think you guys, take somebody off in that.
Yeah.
In the NFL front office or something. Man.
Well,
yeah.
Look, it's funny. All last year, as the Giants kept winning games, they're lucky. Imagine that in the NFL. You're 10-7 because you're lucky. A lot of NFL experts, particularly ESPN, embarrassed themselves on a weekly basis all last season because they couldn't admit that maybe, just maybe, with some good coaching, the Giants had talent and were a pretty decent football team. You don't win by luck in the NFL, and if you think that, you're not a serious analyst.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as luck.
No.
You force turnovers. They don't just happen, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're going to make things happen in the NFL. A defensive stand late to keep a Justin Herbert out of the end zone. You know what I mean? It's like they got lucky there. Did they, or did he throw a pick?
Yeah.
It's not luck, right? Maybe the safety sat back and you know what I'm saying? Like some more went into it than just they got lucky. I literally watched a game last year, maybe it was 2 years ago, where I watched Lamar Jackson. The ball fell out of Lamar Jackson's hand while he was scrambling in overtime. Is that lucky? No. That's what happens when you have a quarterback who scrambles in overtime. The possibility of him fumbling will always be there. It's not luck that it happened. It's like a matter of time before it does.
It does. Yeah. No, you're right. It's, again, the Giants, again, Dable, they hit it right. Shane as GM, again, your Giants are turning in the right direction. I know I know it'll be a little bit disappointed they take us. I know just some Giant fans, it's like, well, we had 10 last year. Now we only get 7. It'll be a little bit disappointing, but yeah, like, again, even if it's a 7-win team, I still think with this front office and with Dable, as a head coach, I think the Giants are going in the right direction. So yeah, it's about time the Giants have finally got their act together, and they're going to be fun to watch for the next couple of years to come. And we'll move on to our final kind of topic of the day here with Justin Herbert signing the big extension here with the Los Angeles Chargers. 5 years, $262 million, $219 million of that's going to be guaranteed. Again, Justin Herbert, has been one of the best quarterbacks in the sport, just since coming in, and with this offense. And again, somebody I thought coming out of college was, I didn't really know what to expect from him, but man, the more I've seen of him, and the more I've seen of Mario Cristobal since that was his head coach in college at Oregon, yeah, I think Cristobal kind of was the reason why maybe this guy did not fully tap his potential in college, because he's been unbelievable. And again, Kellen Moore coming in as the OC, I didn't really like him in Dallas last year. I thought again, like 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2 Dallas seemed like every time they were throwing a 50-yard pass, and I'm like, what are we doing here? So we'll see what happens there. I'm not a big fan of Brandon Staley, but they got the Chiefs in their division. But man, if they could find it, I was kind of hoping maybe they go after Sean Payton, because Sean Payton with Justin Herbert would have been really awesome to watch. But look, I think Chargers did good here. They got it done right before training camp here, and I'm excited to kind of see what happens with the Chargers. I think the Chiefs still a little bit better than them in their division, but is it a team in a loaded AFC that maybe one of these years with Herbert they can crack through and get to a Super Bowl, maybe even win it?
It's interesting. I think as long as Patrick Mahomes is making less money than Herbert and Wilson and Garoppolo, right? I think as long as those guys are making more than Mahomes, it's a big advantage to the Chiefs. I mean, let's be honest. If anybody should be the number one paid quarterback in the NFL, should be Mahomes, and everybody should shuffle in right behind him. And Herbert would be right up there, like one of the top 4 or 5 guys behind Pat Mahomes. We saw what Tom Brady did in not taking all the money that he could have gotten. I'd be curious to see how this is structured, because on its face, you're talking about $52 million a year you're paying this guy.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of other needs that a team has with a very limited cap. It's a lot of money to be investing. And I'll say what I thought a couple years ago when the Chiefs gave Mahomes that huge deal in the first place. Is this going to be a problem in keeping guys around? And then a year later, Tyreek Hill had to go. And I thought, yes, that's what I'm talking about. This quarterback's got to get paid. You got to take care of him, a lot of guaranteed money. I get all that. Has this guy won a playoff game yet?
No.
Okay.
They blew, 23 league in Jacksonville?
That to me is a huge problem here. And listen, when people are like, Daniel Jones got 40, that's crazy. Well, Daniel Jones has a playoff win now. And as much, listen, I'm not saying he's a better player than Herbert. He's certainly not. Herbert's clearly the more talented and the better player. What's the argument going to be? Well, the Giants are a better team. They had better coaching. Stop it. At some point in this league, if you want to last as a quarterback, there's one thing you have to do. And it's not throw for 45 touchdowns. It's not throwing for 5,000 yards. It's winning a playoff game. Tim Tebow did it. And then they made him play tight end for the Jets. You know what I mean? It's like, sometimes I don't understand the logic in some of the things that happen. Justin Herbert is great and deserves a ton of money. Does this contract prohibit you from keeping Keenan Allen and Mike Williams around? Does this have an impact on what you'll be able to do with your defense down the line? Probably. Yeah. Does this make the team better today? No. You just gave your quarterback a ton more money. A guy who's never won a playoff game. That's a problem. That's a lot of money for a guy who's never won a playoff game. I'm all right with the Daniel Jones money because Daniel Jones has won a playoff game. I think it's as simple as that. You win a playoff game, pay the guy. That's fine. It's an investment. It's if you make the playoffs, you're probably going to go back.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I like Justin Herbert a lot. I love Lamar Jackson. I'm all about these guys getting their worth and getting paid. But it seems like everybody just wants to set the market. Again, Saquon didn't want to set the market. He just wanted to get paid fairly and get some guaranteed money. He's a big part of that offense. And he's a big part of the reason they won a playoff game. And he's one of the reasons that they could win another playoff game if they were to get into one. So that's hugely important. Good for Justin Herbert. Again, I don't like that we're constantly resetting the quarterback market.
Yeah,
and again, we're doing it with guys who don't have anything other than statistics to show for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, I see your point. And, like the playoff win, he hasn't been, I think the coaching has held them back a bit. Again, I have to go back and watch because I don't totally remember how they blew that like playoff game this year against Jacksonville. The way Staley runs his defense, they don't care about.
I do believe it was a Justin Herbert interception.
Okay.
That ultimately cost that team the game. And again, look, I'm not saying he's not a good player, but
yeah, he's got
I've noticed this guy's entire career, and your buddy Risser is one of the worst at this. It's everybody else's fault that Justin Herbert doesn't win a lot of games. It's the coaching, it's the front office, it's the defense, it's the offensive line. And then you talk about a Daniel Jones. Oh, he's not even in the same league. Well, he's got all the same problems, though. So he kind of is in the same league. We don't know until all things are equal. We wouldn't really be able to know that. Again, in their biggest and best opportunities, one of them won a playoff game last year, and the other blew it.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that blew it has just reset the quarterback market.
Yeah.
That's interesting, is all I'm saying.
No, you're right.
If you're trying to project, like, look, he's super talented. Oh, I get that. But the guy that's not super talented won the playoff game. So what's important, I guess?
Yeah. No, you're right. Because the teammates not getting better. Just re-sign him. Yeah. Again, Eckler, I think, is only supposed to get paid like $6 million. They're looking to ship him off, and he's had 38 touchdowns the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's been an important part. Yeah, and these resetting the QB markets again. Going back to the running back debate. This is probably why running back getting less because it's a hard cap sport. It's not like baseball where you can kind of just pay whatever you want. Hey, we'll give the quarterback extra money. Well, that means we're okay. We're gonna have to take some money away from the running backs, and these owners seem fine with it. Unfortunately, it's not fair to these running backs, but again, I don't see it changing. It's for all the running backs.
This is the way the game's set up. I mean, it makes sense. I don't like it, but what are we going to do?
Yeah, I know. It's a disappointing part of it, but it is what it is. And again, as long as it continues to kind of evolve as a more of a passing league, it's going to continue to happen. And we'll kind of see what happens to running back position in the next 5 to 10 years. So it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. But, if you got any final thoughts on that or wrap things up?
Again, I mean, it's an evolving sport. And, again, all the kids want to play wide receivers now, quarterbacks and wide receivers. They don't want to be running backs anymore. And I totally get that. But that's the evolution of the NFL. That's what the NFL is obviously wants because that's what they've promoted with their rules and with everything else. So
yeah,
it is what it is, as they say.
Yeah. Yep. I completely agree with you. And Joe, thanks again for coming on today. You could find Joe as he's the president of CMG. You could find him on a wide range of podcasts, all over the network. He's on many of them. Thanks again, Joe, for jumping on with me today. And Steve will be back next week. Have a good week, everybody. And we'll talk to you next Wednesday.
Jones on first down, wide open, it's Barkley. And Saquon Barkley will take it into the end zone.
Your best ability is availability. Saquon Barkley, he's great when he's on the field, but the problem is since 2018, he hasn't been healthy for this team.
Look at this. They lob it to him. He taps it in off the glass. How about that?
Porter Moser, I think right now is the best coach of college basketball, hands down.
Fins 2 for 3. He's done his part. Pitch is drilled to deep right field toward the pole, and it is gone.
They don't mind not being what they were in the 90s as the best organization in baseball because the Yankees aren't even close to the best organization in baseball.
You're trying to be the Rays, and the Rays do this for a reason. Like, you're the Yankees.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting ClovercrestMedia.com.